U.S. schools are regarded as some of the most prestigious and reputable schools in the whole world. They are known for offering the highest education. For this reason, millions of people immigrate to the U.S. every year, seeking these opportunities for themselves and their children.
However, our school system is not as perfect as it seems. In fact, it's far from it. Despite all the resources and opportunities provided, it also has its fair share of problems. Most prominent among these is educational inequity.
This issue is seen in every school throughout the country. It affects students of all statuses, races, religions, and sexual orientations. Most commonly affected are English learner or EL students.
These students with a language barrier struggle greatly in our school system due to inadequately provided resources and opportunities in order to support these students.
This lack of education affects students, most of which are first-generation immigrants, and prevents them from obtaining jobs, healthcare, and housing. This makes it very hard to settle and create a new life in the U.S.
In this film, we will discuss this issue further, going deeper into the causes and effects, as well as any possible solutions down the road.
Before we begin to talk about the problem, we must first be aware of what academic inequity is. Academic inequity is when resources and opportunities in schools are unevenly distributed, leading to some groups falling behind while others are allowed more than needed to prosper. In this case, we are focusing on the lack of help provided to EL students, making it much harder for these students to succeed and be given opportunities equal to those of their privileged English-speaking peers.
For many, academic inequity causes a significant lack of education, which has many negative effects on those affected. One of the most notable effects is decreased job opportunities. Non-English speakers are employed at lower rates than those who speak English proficiently and are much more likely to work in hourly jobs as opposed to more stable, salary-based jobs. This has also led to significantly lower incomes, with around 55% of immigrant workers with limited English proficiency having household incomes below $40,000 a year. This is an income simply not suitable for the demands of today's economy.
Due to these lower incomes, these non-proficient English speakers also have struggled greatly in housing, an asset which would greatly assist this population, many of which are immigrants for generations to come. Housing allows not only for shelter and convenience, but also greatly increased financial stability, allowing for these people to escape the cycle of poverty, focusing less on present income and survival, but rather more important things such as education, which would lead to more stable, increased income in the long run.
However, educational inequity not only denies people of good things, but also causes bad ones. Limited job opportunities and social disconnection due to language barriers lead to many turning to crime as a source of income. This is seen even outside of the EL student group, with roughly 2/3 of state prison inmates being high school dropouts. This increased rate of crime leads to poorer role models, decreased safety in communities, and as a result, decreases the priority of education for oncoming generations.
Along with many of these immediate effects, this issue also causes many long-term effects, greatly hindering the progression of communities as a whole. One of these long-term effects, which is most common, is the cycle of poverty, which is briefly mentioned previously, however not yet in depth. The cycle of poverty entraps its victims in a loop, making the rich richer and the poor poorer. This happens for many reasons, however most notably, poorly funded education, drug alcohol abuse, and parents needing children to support the family from a young age, making it much harder to focus on school or sports, therefore shutting off many visible escapes from the cycle.
But arguably the most detrimental long-term effect of educational inequity is the effect which it has on individuals' attitude towards education. Many EL students begin to give up on education due to the struggles they face in it, giving them the idea that they have a lower chance to graduate and are less likely to succeed in life. This attitude is also passed down from other generations who are given little to no help in education, worsening attitude through insufficient representation in fields such as STEM and other successful positions, as well as a poor attitude from parents of EL students who give a reaction which is best described by Malcolm X in his speech regarding educational inequity in the African American community.
And the parents usually, who are also limited where education is concerned and who have run into so many barriers and obstacles despite the fact they had education, sometimes they ask themselves, what's the use? So as long as the system that we are in exists, then you will find that our people will have the same attitude toward education. And they have a justified, I should say, they have an attitude that can be explained. But at the same time, the burden rests upon the leaders of the Afro-American community to try and instill within the youth especially the desire to further their education, because without it, you're not going anywhere on this earth today.
With these heavy effects which come from this language barrier, these generations are not able to achieve the financial means and available resources to relieve the next generation of similar issues. However, this is not a definite fate. With the help of the community and school systems, we can look to improve the system and not just solve the problem, but prevent it from even happening. But in order to create an optimal solution, we must first begin to understand who this issue affects.
Educational inequity impacts EL students of all backgrounds. However, it is most detrimental to the Hispanic community, a community which is projected to take up a third of U.S. population in the next 20 years and has seen by far the most immigration in the last few decades. As we can see from this graph, the vast majority of EL students are Spanish-speaking, with the next highest population being Vietnamese at a mere 2.17% of students. Despite this massive difference in population, we must still work to create an equitable school system supporting all students. In the next section, we'll talk about how we can do just that.
In the past few years, schools have greatly improved their efforts in supporting these disadvantaged students. An example of this at Redwood being the ELD program, which not long ago wasn't even an option for students. This program supports students and guides them in classes which they struggle with, as well as being greatly helpful in teaching these students English, as stated by a student of the program.
¿Estás en la clase de ELD?
Y
¿Sí? ¿Te ayuda esa clase?
yo pienso que sí.
¿Piensas que sí? ¿Por qué?
Porque practico mi inglés.
Y es importante, ¿no?
Y sí.
Gracias. We were given the opportunity to ask Ms. Docarmo, a teacher of the ELD program here at Redwood, some questions, giving us an insight into what it's like teaching in this program.
What motivated you to work and help these students?
Good question. So when I first started teaching, I lived in Oakland, and I got to a school that didn't have a lot of resources, and the students that I felt like I was most useful and helpful with were the students that were limited English speaking, because most of them spoke Spanish, and my Spanish is really good. And also those were the students that I felt like I was making more of a difference in their lives. So
What is one of the hardest parts about working with these students? Or are there any challenges that you face?
I think the hardest thing for me is the same as for everyone else, is just instilling the importance of school, and also the same as for the Spanish learners, like getting people to understand how important it is to speak English, but also to be able to get out of their Spanish speaking, or whatever other language they speak, kind of, because you have to leave a little bit of your culture behind in a way to jump into that new culture to speak English. And sometimes people get into this little phase where they don't want to go outside of that of themselves in a way and take on a new culture. So I think that's the hardest part, is just getting them to get excited about adding to their culture and becoming, changing who they are and changing the way they speak and see themselves and are. Yeah.
What is the most rewarding part about helping these students?
So I think in America we have a lot of, one of our things is individualism, that we kind of, it's part of being American is part of being, it's like an individual, but I think a lot of other cultures around the world have more of a community vibe, and I really appreciate that, because that's why I was also so happy to learn Spanish and to study and speak Spanish, is because I always felt like this, oh, come be part of our community, and it feels like a community. They uplift me on the days that I'm not feeling the best, or it's also the classes are smaller, so I get to spend more time with them. But yeah, I think the sense of community that people from other countries have when they bring that to us and share with us part of their culture, and I think it makes all of us stronger, and it's an asset to our lives.
An additional form of improvement we have seen is in the emergence of technologies such as Google Translate and online English learning resources, which allow us to bridge the gap and be able to communicate with students to allow for better understanding and more academic success. We have also seen the formation of many organizations as the EL student population in the U.S. continues to grow. Organizations such as Latinos for Education, National Association for Bilingual Education, or NABE, and many other organizations supporting more specific populations of EL students, which support and draw attention towards the issue and students affected by it.
Super crucial about this leadership program is that it allows people to dig deep, to figure out who you are and what role you play in helping to solve education inequity.
By virtue of having a leadership role, you must have a voice and know how to use that voice. We really are talking about thousands of students in our network who are benefiting from the leadership that is being developed in our communities.
The legacy of people being touched in a way that is intentional, that does have hope, that has support, that has community, that has a future already embedded into it, it is powerful.
Another solution which is greatly helpful is in state action, such as Prop 58 and regulations in curriculum and teaching which enforce equitable education for all students, including those affected by language barriers. These solutions also seem to be working quite well, seeing as over the past few decades, the graduation rates have risen by tens of percents, but nonetheless insufficient compared to non-EL students, with a current gap of around 15 to 20%. However, it is almost certain that we will be able to close this gap in the near future.
For an issue as big as this one, everyone has the ability to make an impact, and even the smallest things count. From donating and volunteering with major organizations to showing more support and patience to these students, we can help educational inequity become a thing of the past. There are even opportunities as close as in your own school, such as volunteering as an EL peer tutor, helping affected students.
No student deserves to fall behind just because of the language they speak. It is high time we create an education system which accommodates all students' needs, one which provides equal opportunities and will help all students overcome any obstacles, no matter the scale. It is up to not only the schools themselves, but everyone within them, including students, to ensure that this will become a reality. As school is not just a place of learning, but a place where students discover their voice, their passion, and their future.